Let's pivot to the kind of adult learner, corporate America. Tell me, what are some of the learnings that you personally took that were a little bit of an aha for you?
One of the biggest ahas for me was when I stumbled across research between Mass General and MIT that looked at cognitive peaks, because we have all of our structures of education, learning, and work are based on the premise that you got to pack learning in that first third of your life because that's when your fluid intelligence peaks by the age of 20. Now, it turns out that's true, but what they discovered was a whole series of cognitive peaks across the lifespan, including the fact that your, executive function really doesn't peak till you're almost 30. And
Hmm.
that's when most people are out of university. So you're making these lifelong decisions and these debt load things before you really don't have the capabilities to do so. Your ability to concentrate, deeply concentrate in your 40s, read emotions in your mid 40s, deeply learn new information in your 50s. Vocabulary skills don't peak to in your mid 60s. So that's a really good argument for learning across the lifespan. And that was just a first pass. I mean, this is the first time they had looked outside of the 70s at cognition because it's changed because the amount of data coming at us today, the complexity we deal with has changed. So I'm looking forward to much more of that research coming out. And then where do you meet the adult learner? Because we're going to have to learn across the lifespan now. And the career arc's at least a decade longer. So how do you align learning opportunities with those cognitive peaks? How do you organize your workforce to hit those cognitive peaks? I mean, we've needed to digitize the economy, so we've lunged at youth. I mean, the median age of people in Facebook, Google, Microsoft, et cetera, is 30s. It tops out at 30s, where the median age in the workforce is 40 and trending higher. So we have a whole piece of the workforce in terms of an age span that we're just not tapping into, and I hope that that's the next wave.
What does that wave look like? How do we tap into that very fertile segment of workers that are in the prime of their capacities that are probably not being leveraged or learning as much as they should?
Let's look at some of the major mistakes that have happened in companies. And we've got these, largely young digital companies that are doing incredible things, but most of their mistakes have been mistakes of maturity, mistakes of wisdom. And we're not tapping into that wisdom. So we have these young digital companies, which are really fascinating because they're disrupting and enabling new capabilities across the globe. But then we have these older workers who are kind of sitting on the sidelines because we don't know how to tap into them because we're passing them over because they don't have some digital skill. But you really look at what you want to do in terms of value creation, you want to serve a need that hadn't been served before. And who understands humans better than people who've had more experience with humans? I mean, a lot of the top 10 skills by the World Economic Forum, they keep putting out different lists. A lot of those top 10 skills don't peak till after the age of 40. So we're not tapping into that yet. That's sort of the next wave. So you digitize the economy. Now what? We're racing through a digitization of the economy. We leapt forward about 5 years in the first 60 days of the lockdown, according to McKinsey. Now, what do we do with that advantage? But pull in some of our senior members of society who have much more of that tacit knowledge and wisdom that can make better long-term value. They can make better connections across the organization. They can make longer-term relationships with your consumers. I'm calling it the human capital era. How would you invest in human capital more broadly? Because closing the skills gap is the ability to execute on what you already know. Investing more broadly in human capital is your ability to explore the unknown, and that's going to be so much more of what we do.